Welcome inside a brand new episode of Mountaineer Game Day Extra. The Mountaineers' first Big 12 conference game of the season brought good barbecue for Nick and I. It also brought back a big win for West Virginia, a narrow win, I should say, leaving Lawrence with the 29-24 victory. We did see some improvement in that game, all around from this West Virginia team. But like head coach Neil Brown said after the game, while it was a step in the right direction, this group still does have a lot that it needs to work on. This is still a really young team, but we have seen these guys really step up in some big moments. We saw that up against the Jayhawks as well. But I guess one of the things that really does stand out over the past 2 weeks is West Virginia's run game seems to be back, seems to be doing well. The Mountaineers 192 yards on the ground, while the defense was able to limit the duo of Puka Williams and Khalil Herbert to just a combined 103 yards. So a great team win, some good stuff that we did see. But I'll be anxious to see the improvements that this Mountaineer team makes, especially heading into this Texas week, because the bye week, and then of course playing up against Texas, because while there were those little mistakes, this is a Longhorn group that can certainly expose them if the Mountaineers don't get things cleaned up.
Yeah, you're right. There was a lot to like about WVU's win over Kansas. I think that the way West Virginia stopped the run was really impressive. I mean, throughout the week leading up to the Kansas game, you heard so much about Khalil Herbert and Puka Williams. Both guys entered the contest averaging over 100 yards each through the first portion of the regular season. Neither guy reached 100 yards, and Kansas just barely exceeded that in terms of rushing as a team. I think WVU really contained those guys well, but then on the other side of the ball, for West Virginia, Austin Kendall didn't throw a touchdown pass. He exceeded 200 yards passing for the third time this season, and all three of those were victories for the Mountaineers, but didn't throw a touchdown pass. Some praise from the coaching staff about his game management, but some critiques about his ability and accuracy, not just his ability, but the entire offense's ability to pull off some big plays. You know, that's been a theme for WVU this year. First 5 games of the season, or first 2 games of the season, the Mountaineers only recorded 5 plays of 20 yards or more. Not a single one of those was a rushing play. So WVU really relied on the pass early in the season. Then we've had this complete transformation over the last 2 weeks where the running game maybe has inched ahead of the passing game. And against Kansas, the Mountaineers didn't have a single passing play of more than 20 yards. So West Virginia's offense showing some good signs. It's not necessarily regressing in any areas. Still played really well against Kansas, but during this idle week, Angelica, there really is a lot for WVU to continue working on. The running game has gotten better, but that doesn't mean it should stop here, right? The progress has to continue.
While it was a really balanced effort for this WVU team, we talk about Austin Kendall. One thing that you have to remember, too, this was just his second road game as a starter. That first one coming against Missouri, I think everybody maybe seems to forget a little bit how inexperienced this team is, and Austin Kendall is certainly no exception. And some other news coming out this week is offensive lineman Josh Sills will be out for the remainder of the season. He missed the past 2 games with a shoulder injury, and he had surgery on Monday. Seems to be recovering well. He did post a picture on Twitter there after his surgery. So now, how does that affect the offensive line? We're going to talk about this a little bit later coming up, because I know it's a viewer question as well, but it's something that we had a chance to talk with West Virginia's co-offensive coordinator and offensive line coach Matt Moore, to where he had said, regardless of that injury, there was never really a starting 5 locked in. He said he likes to keep the competition going there within this group, but it has been Chase Barrett that's filling in for Sills. He was the guy, if you remember, came in as West Virginia center, lost the starting center job, then potentially thought he would be starting at guard, lost that as well, but has now battled his way back in. He's filled in for Sills the past 2 games at guard, and he's a guy that we have heard a lot of great things about over the past couple weeks. Coach Brown and Coach Moore saying that they thought that he had the best play of any of WVU's offensive linemen in that game up against Kansas. Well, when we really talk about it, I feel like you got to leave Colton McKivitz there out of the equation. Right. He's a guy that you know is going to be consistently producing for this team. So they had said he did a lot of good things. So again, some young guys being relied upon up front. Can't say enough about what Bryson Mays is doing there at center for WVU. And then we got to see Letty Brown get back into the mix a little bit. He was West Virginia's second leading rusher. So all in all, like you said, a lot of good things. But you talk about the explosive plays. West Virginia's defense led a few explosive plays there as well. Certainly a lot still to be desired out of this WVU offense. We'd like to see, Kennedy McCoy was the leading receiver, and a game to where we saw George Campbell's streak get snapped. You know, he scored there in each of West Virginia's first 3 games. But I'd like to see what this receiving core can do. We heard 2 weeks ago from Sam James say this offense has not shown what it's capable of. I think it needs to take a big step in that direction after this bye week.
Yeah, so let's take a look at what's happening during the bye week, what we know from our conversations with co-offensive coordinator Matt Moore and head coach Neil Brown. Coach Brown's philosophy entering an open week, which we're right in the middle of it. WVU is practicing this week, but is also going to have an extended period of time off. Coach Brown is giving the players and his staff off Friday and Saturday, with the goal being a chance to recharge, a chance to step away from football for players, an opportunity to go visit some family perhaps, all with the mindset of coming back for that game against Texas and being ready for the Longhorns. But there is a lot that WVU wants to continue to work on here during this idle week, practicing Wednesday and Thursday, including a self-scout that Coach Brown elaborated on, right? That this is an opportunity for WVU, as he told us earlier this week, not just to start getting ready for Texas, but also to make some strides in some of those areas that we've already discussed.
We'll work a little bit of Texas, but a lot of it's centered around us. We'll do some good work. I think it's about, during this bye week, it's about efficiency in your time. So it'll be a more so working on us, but also looking ahead, getting a few reps on some things that Texas does.
You'll hear much more from the head coach himself coming up this week on a new episode of The Neil Brown Show. It airs Friday night on AT&T Sportsnet at 5 p.m. Then Saturday at 9 a.m. on your local Nexstar station in West Virginia. Make sure you check your local listings for more details. Now, Angelica, as we start to look ahead here, September is going to wrap up for the Mountaineers with this idle week, a 3-1 record and a winning streak, too, to end the month of September. But not only is WVU going to do some things on the practice field to start getting ready for the rest of the season, also a good opportunity for guys to rest and for guys who are banged up to try to get healthy. Coach Brown mentioned a couple of guys, namely, that have been out for most of the season, including Charlie Benton, a linebacker who we haven't seen since week 1 of last season for WVU, as well as defensive back Drayshawn Miller. They're going to be evaluating those players to see if they may be making a return to the lineup soon. Another guy that you could see as soon as that Texas game is Vandarius Cowan, another guy on defense. He served a 4-game suspension. Remember, he's an Alabama transfer, sat out last season, sat out the first 4 games of this season. Could see him as soon as that game against the Longhorns. Coach Brown says he's going to be evaluated heavily, those are his words, as WVU goes through this bye week and into Texas prep.
Well, while we talk about guys on defense, talking about that secondary, Keith Washington had his second interception there of the season, and it's something we talked about last week with Coach Brown. West Virginia was number 2 in the nation in pass breakups. He said the key is to turn some of those breakups into interceptions. Keith Washington certainly did that. And a guy who we haven't really talked about, but I think in a good way, because that means that he's doing his job, is Hakeem Bailey. He's had some pretty good pass breakups here over the past 2 weeks. So while we are talking about the inexperience, while we're talking about inexperience, somebody on West Virginia's defensive line, Jordan Jefferson, just turned 18 a couple days ago.
Isn't that incredible?
Imagine that. 4 games played at the Division I level at 17 years old.
That's just
and
insane to me.
He's doing a great job in there for West Virginia. So talking really about the youth of this team, I'll be anxious to see what it really can do, because while West Virginia and Kansas really entered that game in the same spot, nobody knew really what they were going to get out of either team. I think whenever you look past this bye weekend, you know what you're going to get out of the Texas Longhorns. That really is going to be that big step up in competition. So we'll be anxious to see what these guys can do. Like you said, I think the bye week comes at a good time. You talk about injuries. We saw a couple guys really banged up as well. Coach Brown had said Alex Sinkfield was dealing with a lower body injury. So he started the NC State game, and then we saw him on punt return. But other than that, didn't really see much of him up against the Jayhawks. So I'll be anxious to see that. I think, now, we don't know this for sure, but there were a couple plays to where Sam James was a little slow getting up, so was Kennedy McCoy. So I think those are just your typical football injuries, wear and tear for these guys. So looking forward to see what the bye week can really do for them. But got to keep the focus, got to keep this here in the bye week, and certainly need to be more efficient on both sides of the ball as well throughout the rest of the season, because things are not getting any easier for this West Virginia team.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You got Texas on October 5th. then Iowa State on October 12th, both of those games at home, then go on the road for just an incredibly tough test against Oklahoma, and then after that, got to play at Baylor on Halloween. Now, we know that West Virginia throttled Baylor last year at Milan Puskar Stadium. But you got to imagine, though, that things are going to be a lot different this year. New coaching staff for WVU, completely new set of starring players. Plus, got to imagine that the guys at Baylor are not going to be too pleased to have the Mountaineers coming to town, especially after the beatdown that West Virginia delivered to Baylor last season. So, with WVU at 3-1 right now, West Virginia is in really good position here. Picked to finish 8th in the Big 12. 7 teams last year made bowl games by winning 6 games or more in the conference. So West Virginia's halfway to bowl eligibility, halfway to those 6 victories. The problem is, this month of October, it's going to be really tough to find a win or two for West Virginia. Not to say that it can't happen, but WVU would legitimately be pulling upsets to at this point in the season to beat any of those teams. We'll talk more about that as the Texas game approaches, of course. But as you look ahead at West Virginia's schedule, yes, it's tough, but the Mountaineers are in a really great position. And if you look back as recently as 2 weeks ago against Missouri, I'm speaking for some fans here. I don't think that too many people would have thought that WVU would be halfway to bowl eligibility and riding a winning streak into its open week. So I think that proves just how resilient this group is. We've seen it so much. We've talked about it, how much improvement the Mountaineers have made, and we hope to continue to see that because that's a good sign if the Mountaineers can continue trending upward out of the bye week.
So it is the bye week for West Virginia, which means no Mountaineer game day this weekend, but we will return live from Milan Puskar Stadium on October 5th when the Mountaineers welcome in the Texas Longhorns. Our program starts at 10 a.m. and kickoff is set for 3:30.
And a big thanks, as always, to the Varsity Club, catering services for MGD Xtra provided by the Varsity Club Sports Tavern of Morgantown. Always enjoy having lunch before and after. Sometimes we have leftovers before and after.
No jalapeno burger for me this week.
Yeah, it was. You know what?
That was tough. It was really, really good, but you need to really be prepared. Those jalapenos
you could feel the heat coming off of Angelica as she was eating the jalapeno burger.
The truffle fries, though, those are
fantastic. Before we chat with Sam here about some questions for Ask MGD Extra this week, we have to. I mean, we're talking about it already. Man, the barbecue in Kansas City. I had Joe's for the first time. That's a famous barbecue joint outside of Kansas City. Man, it's good. Best ribs I think I've ever had. It's fantastic. Fantastic.
Well, I went back in for the jalapenos on that one. Like you thought I would have learned my lesson after that burger from the Varsity Club. But pulled pork, bacon, fried jalapenos, all on a sandwich. And the seasoning on those fries.
Yeah, they're great.
Man,
they're great.
That was good.
That was a good trip. A fun part about travel to the Midwest for so many Big 12 games is the opportunity to experience.
And then, of course, we had, 2.5 hours, so, of course, we went and sat at Fuzzy's for that entire time with some queso.
The funny story about Fuzzy's is the guy who waited on us at 11 a.m. when we were the first customers in the building was like, you guys are still here about 2 hours
There's a line
later.
out the doors. He's checking people out, and he's like, are you finally leaving? So, anyways.
Good times.
Yeah, that was fun.
What's
All
up,
right,
Sam?
No barbecue for me this weekend.
No, not on your
not
white
in
shirt.
Morgantown. Not on the white shirt. Definitely not on the white shirt.
No.
No. Got to keep this one clean. But I'm here to talk a little football. Food's pretty cool. Let's talk a little bit about football. Now, this was a question coming in. Well, I saw it a bit on social media. Cool answer, though, I believe.
Yeah.
Austin Kendall's been handing the ball off with his left hand. What's up with that?
Here's all you need to know. If it's good enough for Kyler Murray, then I think that it's good enough for Austin Kendall. He said that's where he picked that up from, the Heisman Trophy winner and his teammate there at Oklahoma. But he said that that's something that he learned from them. He brought it here, asked them if he could do it. They said, hey, if it works, we'll keep it in. But I think really the main thing to think about in that is really all have to do with his shoulders, right? He said that the defenders can't really read what you're doing. You still got your front shoulder up there. And I think Letty Brown did pick up some substantial yardage on that play too.
Yeah, I don't have the exact stat for how many yards, but it seemed like every time. The trick for Kendall is he turns and looks, and sometimes the defenders are going to bite as he looks to his throwing side, and then he turns back and gives it with his left hand, still all in one motion, keeping his eyes away from where the play is going to go. It worked like a charm a number of times. We'll see if defenses can pick up on it later, but hey, anything to get that run game going, why not?
Yeah, I was watching a couple of the replays of it, because from where we stand, we're kind of straight on, and it's hard to see a little bit through some defenders. But yeah, he was just standing there and was like, boop, right there to Letty, and he
Looks
said it helps
smooth,
with the running. Yeah, he said it gives the running backs a couple extra seconds really to see. So, I mean, like we said, if it originated with Kyler Murray, I think let's give it a shot here.
No kidding. Yeah, so keep an eye out for that too as the season progresses. See if the defenses catch on.
If it works, it works. Unfortunately, a little bit for that running game, though. We got some bad news on Tuesday. Josh Sills will be out for the season. What's going to be the impact of that on the team, Nick?
So I think the impact is going to be substantial for the fact that it's one fewer offensive lineman to rotate into the game. Now, of course, you're losing Josh Sills, who is a starting right guard for WVU, and probably along with Colton McKivitz is regarded as one of the top 2 or 3 linemen on the team. But he hasn't played the last 2 weeks, and that's been when you've seen this substantial uptick in the running game. So, we have yet to see just how good truly Missouri's run stop is going to be. We know that Missouri really had trouble against Wyoming. Maybe that was just a very fluke game, and it turns out that Mizzou has a really stellar run stop this season. But, I think it's unfortunate that Sills' season is going to end early. But the way that WVU's young offensive linemen have played the last few weeks, Angelica, I really think it gives the team hope that there can be, with some continuity there, that depth is still there and that there can continue to be success.
Yeah, I think with this, the best case was that he hadn't played in the past 2 games. It's not like he got injured in game action. Now you're scrambling to figure out what to do. So they do kind of have a little bit of an answer of what to do. It's Chase Barrett that is filling in there at right guard. We've heard a lot of great things about him, really playing his best at that position after losing their starting center. So I think kind of, what Nick said, I think we're going to see the effect into the season. If maybe some guys do get banged up, there's going to be some shuffling around. I think it really hurts West Virginia in terms of depth, but the good thing is some of these young guys have really been stepping up and proving themselves so they can keep what they've been doing the past 2 weeks without Josh Sills in there. Then you have to think he's going to be on the sideline, be an extra set of eyes for these guys. That can really only be beneficial for this team. Coach Brown had said it's still up in the air. They haven't decided if maybe he will take a 6th-year option. He said right now the focus is on Josh's recovery, so we'll keep an eye on that as well.
Big loss. We wish him a speedy recovery, as always. Now, we did get to hang out, Nick and I did at least, we got to hang out with our favorite Bob Huggins.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad Coach Huggins is back in our lives. 44 more days till hoop season. I'm counting it down.
Almost there. We're almost there, but we got to start talking about it now. 44 days.
Yeah.
What's the biggest storyline heading into this season?
I think it's got to be what can Oscar do, right? Recently it was that Jalen Bridges committed and enrolled here, but I think from what I had heard, I didn't get to listen to the full thing, but Coach Huggins had said that I think they're going to redshirt him for this upcoming season, right? So I think that it would be the big story is Oscar. I mean, this is a guy, 6'9", 7'5", wingspan, went to the same high school as Sag, so I think coming in, everybody was excited that maybe he could I don't want to say be the next Sags. That's not what I'm trying to say here, but be that same type of impact player. I'm anxious to see what he can do. I mean, this is a big guy. He can get some boards. He can throw it down as well. I think what he's going to be able to do, and just another storyline. I mean, this is going to be a young team again for West Virginia.
Yeah, young but experienced, and I think that's the storyline that I'll be following the closest throughout this season is just how much did all of that playing time for the guys who were thrown into the fire like Jordan McCabe and Emmett Matthews Jr. What does that mean for them this year? They know what the gauntlet of the Big 12 is like. They had a run in the Big 12 tournament and were the last teams other than Virginia to beat the eventual national finalist Texas Tech. I think that WVU is young but has a lot of returning experience, and that can only benefit the Mountaineers, especially for guys like Jermaine Haley. Just having a year in Coach Huggins' system. He played great at the end of last season. That's good. We've heard some incredible stuff about Logan Rout. We're talking a whole lot about Oscar Shibwe. We're going to talk about Derek Culver, of course, too. And remember that last year, you didn't see a single time Culver and Sags Kanate on the court together. I mean, that would have been a dynamic pairing down low. You are going to see a lot of Culver and Oscar this season down low, but also Logan Rout has really come on strong because of some of the competition there between the 3 of those bigs down low. So I really think that this is going to be a promising season for WVU Hoops. I know a lot of people said that last year, and it only resulted in 15 wins, but Coach Huggins said a number of times last year he's going to figure out what's wrong and he's going to fix it. I think this season is going to be the year to see just how much has been fixed. If WVU, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and make a big prediction. Maybe it's not a big prediction. To me, on the surface, this is absolutely an NCAA tournament team. Even though WVU made the CBI last year, I think that WVU just has so much, even though it's young talent, so much talent, especially with Culver and Oscar together down low. As long as those guys can click, I mean, WVU is going to have perhaps the most dominant dominant post presence in all of the Big 12, and that's going to be really tough for teams to stop.
Yeah, well, remember, we didn't even see Derek Culver for the first half of the season,
That's
so
right.
he really only played half of a year. We saw what he was capable of.
And
so
still
let's
led
see.
the league in
Yeah,
rebounds, right? Or was at the
absolutely.
top of the league. So
Absolutely. Well, let's take this time. I know we're talking hoops, but I would like to add in my own question. Can we talk about Coach Mazey for a minute?
that's
yeah.
fantastic.
Coach
Yep.
Mazey had a contract extension, West Virginia's baseball coach. Now, this is something that we had heard about in the offseason from Shane Lyons that it potentially was coming. The details had just not been released, but it came out earlier this week that they've locked Coach Mazey down through the 2025 season. And, I mean, nobody really deserves that extension quite like Coach Mazey. What he's been able to do with this baseball program over the past couple of years, they're making it to the tournament last year, having a chance to host a regional game at Mon County Ballpark. Coach Mazey got his money, and I think it was very, very well deserved, and we look forward to seeing him here through the next, that'll be 5-6 years now?
Yeah, fantastic for him. Contract keeps him through 2025. Good for Mountaineer Gameday as well.
Yeah,
because
so now
it
we
means
get to keep Amanda.
Mazey is gonna be sticking
Double
around.
whammy.
But yeah, fantastic for him, and so well deserved too. Not just because of the two NCAA tournament appearances in the last 3 years for WVU baseball, but just the kind of culture that has been created within that program. Had either 8 or 9 Mountaineers drafted in the MLB draft last year to
All-time
set a
record.
program record. Exactly, Sam. You of course know the story about Alec Manoah, the first-round draft pick, tied for the highest ever draft pick in WVU history, going to the Toronto Blue Jays. There's just a lot of momentum within that program, but I think it's going to be telling to see just how good this team can be next season, because it did lose so much. But then again, the Mountaineers really
Another
lost a lot.
recruiting class,
Right.
yeah.
Really lost a lot before that 2019 season. We wondered, hey, are there going to be some arms? Who's going to do the heavy lifting at the plate? And then sure enough, Alec Manoah and Nick Snyder become two of the best pitchers in the Big 12. So Mazey has clearly worked some magic over the last few seasons to get WVU to where it is now. We're going to keep an eye on that, of course, and wish him the best as the 2020 season approaches.
Yeah, I
Good
think we
thought.
got a good sports season here on the
Yeah,
horizon.
absolutely.
A lot
I
of
think
great
so,
stuff to look forward to. Both soccer teams, while we're talking about it, let's just keep talking
Yeah,
about
sure.
some other sports that we've got. Both soccer teams will be at home this weekend, so this is now your chance. Football cannot be your excuse that you can't get out to Dick Delesk. So the women's team, plays on Friday night at 7, and it's the men's team that plays on Saturday at 7 as well.
And the women are starting their conference slate,
Yeah.
so it's the beginning of the season. This
Yeah,
is
huge.
Nikki
Yeah, you got to talk
O'Brown's
to Coach
bread-
Izzo Brown,
bread
so
and
we'll let
butter.
you take the soccer here.
Yeah, so the women had a tough little go about it in the beginning of the season. Nikki Izzo Brown scheduled some very tough opponents, several Final Four teams, 3 top 10 teams, and another top 15 team. 3 of those games were on the road. She even said, she had a tough time scheduling, but they made it through. They finished with a 5-3-1 record with a draw at home against Penn State. And Nikki Izzo Brown really makes her money, though, in the conference play. She's always bringing home those trophies, and it all starts on Friday. They host Iowa State.
Well, I was going to say, a team, too, that relies on a good crowd. We've seen a lot of great crowds over the past couple years there at Dick Delesk, so certainly this weekend should be no exception. But as we're talking about all the other sports teams, seems like this is the year for inexperience, kind of all across the board. All teams, it seems, is really having to rely on those young players. Yeah,
men's soccer has had a lot of new faces come in. Last year, Joey Piacek was just an incredible player for them in the midfield. This year, he's gone, but the Mountaineers have still made some waves. They beat Coastal Carolina a couple weeks ago. I believe that was a top 25 showdown. And Coach Marlon LeBlanc called it one of the most complete performances he's seen in his 14 years as the head coach of WVU men's soccer. So Angelica's right. Both teams are at home this weekend. Women and men, no football. Go out and support the Mountaineers and help root them to a victory. A very important game for women's soccer, particularly to get off with conference play started on the right foot too.
Definitely. That all kicks off. Well, the women kick off on Friday, but between now and then, be sure to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, at WV Illustrated. Use the hashtag AskMGDExtra. We don't have a game this week. Next week, we do have a game, a big one, against the Texas Longhorns at home. I'm sure you got questions for us, so be sure to send them in to our social media pages. Hashtag AskMGDExtra. Our fine duo of Nick and Angelica will get those answered for you.
Bring you all of our expertise,
all
right?
the expertise.
So don't forget, no Mountaineer game day this weekend because there's no WVU football game. We'll be back the following weekend before the Texas game, and that means you won't be able to see Dale Wolfley on Mountaineer game day this weekend, but you can see him right now for his Howl of the Week. Wolfman?
It's your MGD Extra, and it, of course, is the Wolves. Oh, baby, let's check it out. Hey, Logan Timmons, senior fullback, H-back. There's no coincidence that when he came into the game at the end of Missouri and last week against NC State, that the yard production for running went up. Okay, let's take a look here at Logan right now. Going to go a little bit fast because I got some work on this young man here. He's going to do the counter right here. Okay, Barron's going to pull. He comes up. He kicks out right here. Big hole here. Big hole. Great job here. Let's run the ball. Run the ball. Kenny McCoy. What is that, 12, 15 yards? I don't even know. Who cares? Right there's Logan Timmons. So second play here, we got Logan Timmons once again. He's going to come here. He's going to cut this guy right here. I'll tell you what, he doesn't care. He'll block you up high. He'll block you low. Watch my man, Logan Timmons here. Come on. Come on, man. Get him, get him, get him. He chops him down. He does. The defensive lineman, they hate that. They hate it, okay? He doesn't get back up to make the tackle. Once again, positive yards, 6 yards against NC State per rush. So starting on the third play here, we got Logan Timmons here once again, okay? It's what, red zone right here? He's going to come out. He's going to make a block in the end zone. Their safety there, the number one tackler, okay? He's going to just knock him, and he's just going to pile him, man. Smash mouth football right here. Logan Timmons. There we go. Roll it. Let's go. Move that, baby. Move it, move it, move it, move it. There we go. Coming up. He sees him. Oh, look what he does. That's it. You're going to meet him here. What's that, at the 2.5 yard line? Again. Oh, there's my man, Lenny Brown, rolling in. You know why? Offensive line coming off the ball, and Logan Timmons once again coming in and sweeping it. I was so fired up with Logan Timmons on Saturday against NC State with the offense being able to run for 6.2 yards per carry with a lot of his effort. Also, hey, special teams, man. I created, okay, on the show, the Snucker Award. No, it wasn't the Slobbergas or whatever they call that there. This is the Wolfman's Snucker, man. It's short because you got to get in there, you got to hit, you got to get out, right? And so they're right here. Logan Timmons, guy right here coming off. There you go, 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 go. That's it. Oh, here he comes. He's got no one blocking him, man. It's the Snucker. He just snucked it, man. Guess what? It was minus 16 yards, so he's actually on the stat sheet as having a 16-yard punt return. How cool is that? Logan Timmons Snucker Award. Great job. And that is your Mountaineer Game Day Extra. Wolves, let me hear it, baby. Oh, boom.
Some final thoughts here on MGD Extra as we wrap up our show for this week. You've probably been watching us on our Facebook page and at WVIllustrated.com. Now there's a new place to find us. Search for Mountaineer Athletics on Roku and Apple TV. If you have either of those devices, you can cast us at home on your big screen TV. Not much better than that, right, Angelica?
Oh, absolutely. And let's take this opportunity to give a shout out to a man that I met at that game at Kansas. He said he watches Mountaineer Game Day Extra all the way from Wichita, Kansas.
What a guy.
He didn't tell me what his name was. I was getting ready to tape my report. He was watching, and we kind of just had a quick conversation. So, our viewer from Wichita, Kansas, if you're joining us again this week,
we salute you.
Thanks for always tuning in. Always make sure to keep it on WVIllustrated.com and all of our social media as well. And don't forget, while there is no Mountaineer Game Day, this weekend we will have an episode of The Neil Brown Show still coming your way, so make sure to check your local listings for that. So we appreciate you joining us here for Mountaineer Game Day Extra. We will be back next week to talk all things Texas Longhorns. We'll see you then. Same time, same place.
All right, you want to do this? Here, go ahead. Yeah, well, me either. So we're going to, hey. Oh, it's tragic. It was tragic.